We're back, everyone. Welcome to MERMAY 2023. What's MERMAY? Well, if you'd like a thorough explanation, I suggest you go back 2 years to our last MERMAY series. In fact, if you haven't already watched those videos, I'd highly recommend you do so before watching this. The story I will tell this month is a continuation of the story told in those videos, as well as an extension of the story from my Apoctober series. As quickly as I can, let me give you the gist of MERMAY. It's a drawing challenge where artists create a new piece of artwork every day for the month of May based on a list of prompts. If you've watched my Smaugust or Kaijun series, it's like those. I've made my own prompt list for this month, and each illustration I've done is accompanied by a bit of writing. Like I said before, this story picks up where another story has left off, so be sure to watch the other MERMAY videos on this channel if you want to stay up to date. I'd love to explain more, but I believe our time may be better spent diving right into the meat of this video. Trust me though, it will all make sense eventually. Like with the past few drawing challenges, this month will include some Pokemon designs, one for each week of MERMAY, and we'll get to this week's edition at the end of the video. For now though, we join Argyle Finch after his return from what feels like a lifetime at sea. On land again and back in the city where his father lived and died, he meets with the attorney who carried out Richard Dore's will.
You're late. The man at the desk was shriveled and aged, diminished by his great leather armchair that seemed to be swallowing him slowly even as he sat. His skin was gray and wrinkled, and his thin white hair was combed neatly over his liver-spotted head. He had a dim light in his eyes, like the hunger of some predatory fish waiting patiently for its next meal. The desk he sat behind was made from wood of the highest quality, and though it seemed nearly as old as the man himself, it showed little signs of wear or decay. On the desk stood a small oil lamp, casting a flickering yellow light across the old man's face. But for this lamp, little else illuminated the office, for though it was daytime and the sun shone brightly outside, the blinds on all the windows were drawn, and only thin shafts of light could penetrate the gloom inside. Minute particles of dust were caught in the rays as they drifted down from the towering bookshelves and cabinets that lined the walls. Better late than never. Across the desk from the old man sat another figure, tall and gangly. He was younger than he who sat before him, certainly. Despite this, something about his face told the story of one who has lived many lives. His eyes were sunken, set deep in his head, and they squinted as if peering into some great unseen light. His face was young, not yet creased with age, but nonetheless weathered and pocked, the face of a man long at sea. Indeed, Argyle Finch had spent most of his youth abroad, traveling the world by boat, ship, or any manner of vehicle that could bear a man across the waves. He had, in fact, seen more in his short life than the man before him had so much as read about in the many years he lived, and something about the tension in the air spoke of this clash between age and wisdom. Though I must say that late, as a word used to describe the nature of my arrival, does not do the matter justice. An hour after lunchtime, aye, that'd be late. The winter gales blowing long into spring. To describe such a thing, I'd use the word late. But 2 years it has been since my father passed, and longer still it's been since I last saw him. Still, I arrive only now to hear of his estate, and the small part that I may play in it. Late, I'm afraid. Won't even begin to describe it. The old man behind the desk sneered and muttered something to himself. He was clearly unamused by this young man and his flippant attitude. Here's a young boy who knows nothing of the real world. His father lies dead, long dead and buried, and he sits before me cracking wise and picking at semantics. Not unlike his father, I suppose. I should be glad when this whole business has finally come to an end. Again, better late than never. At least, that's what my old man would tell me, Argyle said after a moment of uncomfortable silence. He certainly seemed to think so, retorted the old man in a spiteful tone. On the desk before him lay a great bound folio. Presently he opened it, and produced a small pair of spectacles from his jacket pocket. The old man cleared his throat, and Argyle shifted uncomfortably in his chair. For my son, Argyle Dor, or Argyle Finch, as he no doubt uses his mother's name, I have little left to give. The old man was reading aloud from the pages within the leather folio, looking up at the end of each sentence to meet the eyes of Argyle. He continued, What good is it to leave you such material possessions as my great manor, or the key to my vault? Surely you would have no use for such things, if you have returned home at all. Alas, I doubt you even call Providence your home. Very little time you spent here, and less time still did you spend with me. Yet I treasure the fleeting moments we had together. We're more alike than you may think, or than I've led you to believe. At this, Argyle scoffed, and a look of satisfaction appeared on the face of the old man. This will teach the lad some humility. Shows up late to the party and still expects the whole cake. His father's vast estate, more money than most people see in their lifetime, and none of it left for poor little Argyle. And I haven't even gotten to the good part yet. The old man adjusted himself in his throne-like chair and continued on reading, this time a bit more excitedly than he had before. My mansion, my fortune, my collections of trinkets and baubles, these I leave to my dear friend and housekeeper, Juno Mason. So much you already know. But if you are the man I knew you'd grown to be, and as much a kindred spirit to your father as I could hope, this will mean little to you. At this, the old man paused and glanced up from the papers expectantly. To his surprise and disappointment, Argyle seemed unmoved by this news. Juno Mason, he repeated, for perhaps the young man did not hear him properly. Surely you know her? I do, replied Argyle. A good woman, and surely more of a daughter to Richard Dor than I ever was a son, and not without reason. Some would say she's more than that, said the old man, sneering a little. If you are referring to the allegations, the baseless accusations that Juno Mason was in any way connected to my father's death, then I'm afraid you speak of matters on which you understand little. Argyle was speaking quite sternly now, and the change of his tone startled the old man. I have no reason to believe that young woman would kill my father, any more than I would believe I would kill him myself. Jealousy, aye, that's the root of such claims. Neither you nor those like you would envision a woman of her status as anything other than lying and untrustworthy, and so unbefitting of my father's great wealth. But she has not touched it, or so I am told. The money remains locked away, and the doors to his great manor are shut. She did not ask for this inheritance, though she rightly deserved it. And if I am to sit here and listen to you parrot the mindless gossip that pollutes the air around this fearful city, I will rend that will from your bony hands and read the rest myself. Your charge is to bestow upon me that which I am owed, not perpetuate the paranoia of all you wretched old men who already have so much. Read on, and speak no more of Juno or her fate. It is no concern to you. At this, the look on the old man's face changed. Fear flashed in his eyes for but a moment, and was replaced quickly by feigned stoicism. Very well, he croaked and read on. To you, my son, and the only one of my children who ever shared an interest in my work, I leave something far more precious than relics and gold. The old man pulled an envelope from within the pages of the folio, and from this he produced a fine silver key. 81 Chapel Street, apartment 17. A glorified storage unit by all measures, but within it, I believe you will find something of value to you. With this final word read from the will, the old man slammed the key on the table before him, shut the portfolio, and removed his glasses. Argyle leaned forward and took the key. The man before him glared menacingly, and Argyle returned his contempt with an equally unfriendly stare. The building at 81 Chapel Street was in better condition than Argyle had imagined it to be. He knew the place. His father had owned a unit here since he was a young boy. He had never been in person, but the stories he had heard painted the picture of some old, derelict tenement building on the verge of collapse. On the second floor, Argyle found the door to apartment 17. He fit the small key into the lock and turned the handle. A smell of must and moldering paper overcame him as he opened the door and stepped inside. It was dark, and everything within was covered in a thick layer of dust. Argyle closed the door behind him, then crossed to the far side of the room. He opened the thick curtains that hung in front of the only window, and a gray light poured into the room. There were revealed a few scattered pieces of furniture, a leather armchair, a small sitting table, and a bed frame missing its mattress. "I suppose it a fitting estate for a son such as me," Argyle grumbled to himself. Then he noticed something. Atop the small table lay a leather-bound journal, somehow less dusty than all the rest of the apartment. Next to it was a quill and an inkwell, both unused. Argyle walked over to the table and picked up the journal. He blew, clearing the thin layer of dust from the cover. There were no marks to identify the book, but a small insignia was embroidered onto the bottom right corner of the leather cover. Argyle did not recognize it. He opened to the first page, and there he saw, in handwriting that he recognized, one final message from his father. "Argyle, my boy, forgive my paranoia. I hope that this message finds you well, and away from the prying eyes and bat-like ears of that hideous old man who manages my estate. There are some things I would rather him not know about my doings, and what in particular I leave to you. Indeed, there is much I haven't told you, and not without reason. Chiefly, I believe it is your fate, and the fate of all, to uncover the mysteries of this world for yourself. I would not squander your inherent curiosity by telling you all that I have learned in my short life. Not all at once, at least. I'm sure your journeys have posed more questions to you than I could ever hope to answer, and there are others that will ask of you that which you wish to know from me. I can tell you this, you are not alone. There are others who share in your curiosity and your thirst for understanding. Others who have seen such wonders and horrors as you have. We strive as one to unravel the mysteries of our worlds and of all the infinite others that lie beyond our reach. Your testimonies will serve them well, and to you I'm sure they will come in time. So, my son, I leave you this. A journal. Too small, perhaps, to log all that you have lived through. This will be your legacy, and an extension of my own. And while I do not doubt that what little I have given you to ponder will leave you with more questions than answers, I assure you, it will all make sense in the end." Argyle flipped the page, hoping desperately for more information. To his dismay, all he saw was a short line of text, printed as if from a press. "Enigmorphs, a heretofore undocumented manner of being that is both of and not of this world, given life by the will of the ancient and immortal, and thrust into the realm of the living, either willingly or otherwise." Several emotions overcame Argyle all at once. First confusion, then frustration, now a soothing sense of relief. Whether it was his father's intention or not, this final gift had alleviated some of the guilt that welled up in Argyle's heart since the day he learned the old man had died. His voyages were not in vain. His time at sea more than just a fruitless struggle against his own doubts and fears. Here his father had given him purpose, and he felt that he began to understand his place in this world. He sat down in the large leather chair, opened the inkwell, and readied his quill. There was much to tell. My time spent on the frigid waters of the Arctic were grim, but not as insufferable as one may imagine. My crew was ragged and weary, only just shy of freezing to death where they stood. The days were short, and the nights seemed endless. Very little I wrote in my journal those days, leastwise from my frozen fingers. Now, with some distance between me and those unforgiving seas, I can recount with some fondness the memories of that place. In the short hours of the day, while the waves were calm and the wind stood still, I heard their songs. Ghostly and distant they sounded at first, but the more I listened, the clearer they sung. I knew their coded melody was not for me. They sang to another. But the message did not fall on deaf ears. Songs of hope, refreshing, uplifting. Too often did the voices of the sea herald doom and misery. These words melted the salted ice that had closed around my heart. Alas, only briefly would their song drift from the deep up to my undeserving ears. Soon it was silent again, and the darkness of night reclaimed my soul. Enigmorphs, my father called them. I suppose it a more befitting name than what I called them. Fish folk. Indeed, not all are so fish-like in appearance. Corrupted they are, twisted mockeries of life here on earth. It's because of her, I know it. The crown of thorns. She made these things, willing or no. Some of them are little more intelligent than the beast and fish after which they take, but there are others who seem to be cursed with sentience, trapped in a struggle between the mind of a bird, the soul of a human, and the will of forces beyond mortal comprehension. They hear her voice, as I do, and the voices of all touched by her infinite spines. Desperate to understand, they devour, choking themselves on the flesh of those they perceive sing endless songs. She won't let them swallow. Her wisdom is a closely kept secret, and the songs die in the throats of those who crave answers. I'm not unlike them, I find. One step removed from plunging my head under the black waves and swallowing all that swims below. It is good that I'm no longer at sea. Are they born? Are they made? Were they always here? Surely my father knew the answer to these questions, and now I struggle against feelings of resentment that he did not share more of what he knew with me. All I have is what I've seen, and yet all I've seen tells me little. More than once I've discerned among my nets a writhing pouch, like a fleshy purse, and trapped within it the beginnings of one such aberration of nature as those I had seen along my journey. They repulsed me. Unnatural though all these enigmorphs may be, these nascent forms were exceptionally unsettling. Their eyes peered through the translucent film, darting this way and that. Their fingers twitched, their bodies twisted and undulated, pulsing with ill-gotten life. Though I may have liked it, I was never able to bring myself to destroy them. Once I raised my harpoon, set to pierce that swelling sack and skewer its foul inhabitant. But our eyes met, and pity flooded my heart. Those I encountered since, I threw overboard. Now I think that slaying them might have been true mercy. Enigmorphs. The will of ancient horrors given flesh what's been taken from mortal creatures of earth. No, but not all I've encountered are such abominations. There are others. Mira knew them. She spoke of them fondly. I have seen their ilk. More like humans they are, as if described in some fairy tale about merfolk and sirens. Conscious, too. They speak to me, or at least they try. And there's a strength in their voice, proud and unyielding, like men and women at war. I think we share a common enemy, these creatures and I. The crown of thorns is as much a threat to them as she is to any mortal man, and perhaps they feel the bite of her sting worse than I can imagine. Their unflinching resolve is comforting to me, though I doubt I will ever again speak to them in my lifetime. I hope that those who continue my father's work seek their aid. I wonder if my father even knew of such allies. It's hard to imagine there's anything I knew that he didn't.
We will return to Argyle's journal and more of the creatures he encountered next week. To wrap up today's video, let's take a look at the Pokemon design I've made for Day 5's prompt, Carp. I'm sure no one is shocked that a regional variant of Magikarp was the Pokemon I decided to go with for this day's prompt, and it's especially unsurprising if you know what my favorite Pokemon is. Yes, I was bummed to find out that the dev team for Project Untamed did not include Magikarp in the Mazda region Pokedex, but then I remembered, this is my Pokedex. If I want to add in Magikarp, I'm gonna do it. And more than just the fish Pokemon that I already know and love, I want to create a Magikarp that caters even more to my particular tastes. Themes of hidden treasure were integrated into this variant's design. Magikarp is the poster child of underappreciated Pokemon, and most people, both within and without of the canonical Pokemon universe, only like it for its evolution, Gyarados. The idea of a Pokemon only being appreciated for its value in battle is heartbreaking to me, but I wanted to capture those emotions in this design. You may then be asking, why is this Magikarp so much uglier than its Cantonian counterpart? Well, it's all part of what makes Magikarp so special, and what makes it my favorite Pokemon. Unfortunately, just like Argyle Finch, you won't have an answer for your question just yet. You'll have to wait until next week to see what such a pitiful little creature could become. Or maybe, just maybe, you love it enough for what it is. Magikarp, Mazian form, the fish Pokemon. Both Cantonian and Mazian Magikarp can be found in the Mazda region, but the Cantonian variety is considered a much more valuable catch. Magikarp indigenous to the Mazda region are disliked by fishermen, and are even less desirable than their more widely spread cousins. They are duller in color, have lumpy and misshapen scales, and their fins seem to cultivate a foul-smelling algae. Nonetheless, the oldest and most experienced Mazda fishermen know that not all that glitters is gold, and with enough time and commitment, a Mazian Magikarp is worth more than all of the treasure in the world. This was a short week, but come next Friday we'll have a full 7 days of MERMAY prompts, 6 more Argyle Finch logs, and the evolution of Mazian Magikarp. What did you guys think of this week? Any thoughts on what Mazian Magikarp may evolve into? Leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Before we go, I'd like to share a few MERMAY illustrations done by you guys, the fans, pieces that I really liked. If you're interested in sharing some of your own MERMAY work for a chance to be featured in another video, be sure to share them in the MERMAY channel of our Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, and we'll see you all in the next video. Happy MERMAY!